I was in labor for 26 hours and was in a lot of pain as I didn't take an epidural. My husband was constantly on the phone either playing games or talking with his brothers being really loud. When I asked him to please hang up, he'd hang up the phone and then like 10 minutes later call them back. He really wanted to talk to them because his friends went on a boys' trip without him because I asked to stay back so he could be here when I went into labor. They were calling to tell him about how their trip was going. He apologized to them, blaming it on me being a nag. I was really annoyed and told him if he wanted to talk to his friend, he could do that elsewhere so I can be in pain and peace. He was like, "Alright, fine baby, I'll just call them back later." So I had about 20 minutes of peace until his mom FaceTimed him, where he proceeded to put me in the video call. His mom makes a comment about how she remembers when she was in labor with him and that she still did herself up. She even claimed she looked so good the doctor even was flirting with her. I was holding back everything inside me to not say something as I didn't want to disrespect my mother-in-law, but at the same time she sometimes just makes the stupidest comments at the worst times, and at this moment I could not stand talking to her. A nurse ends up coming in and could tell I was upset and asks me if everything was alright, and I tell her I just really want to be alone. She ends up kicking out my husband, and in turn he ends up missing the birth of our firstborn daughter because he left the hospital because he was pissed off that I got the nurse to kick him out the room. He refused to come see his daughter afterwards because he was angry at me for kicking him out. My mother-in-law, who did visit me in the hospital, wouldn't stop talking about how I'm such a bad wife for removing my husband from the room. When I got home, he kept on bringing up how I ruined a moment of bonding with his daughter and how he could never forgive me for that. Am I the asshole for kicking my husband out the delivery room because he was making phone calls? NTA. That's a whole lot of red flags from your husband. 1. Had to be told not to leave on a boys' holiday when his wife would likely be giving birth to his child. 2. Ignored his laboring wife to chat with his friends on said trip. 3. Called them back after being told to hang up. 4. Answered a video chat from someone you didn't want in the room. 5. Allowed that person to be disrespectful towards you. 6. Went off in a sulk instead of visiting you and his child as soon as he was allowed back in. If he has a problem with the situation, you could ask him what he was feeling the last time he had a new person escaping from his vagina so you can compare notes and come up with a compromise. 100% all of this. The deflection makes me angry for her. She needed her husband and he acted like a child. Childbirth is nothing to joke about. Women die in childbirth and it's painful. Definitely not the NTA, but having to tell a grown man how to act isn't something you want to be doing while in labor. Absolutely. Maybe I'm just always looking for an out, but I would have filed divorce the second I left the hospital with that behavior. NTA, the nurse kicked him out of the room. He's the one that chose to leave the hospital altogether. Tell him. You missed the birth of your daughter because you threw a temper tantrum and left the hospital. If you had been focused on me and the baby instead of playing games and having loud phone calls with your friends, I never would have asked you to leave the room. You're mad that you missed this moment? Well, I am mad that when your daughter and I needed you most, you prioritized chatting with your friends and complaining about what a nag I am. I am mad that when I was in an incredibly vulnerable position you let your mom insult me. I am mad that you are blaming me for something that was the consequences of your own selfish actions. I am mad that you are still making this situation about yourself and playing the victim instead of celebrating that I gave birth to our daughter. I'd copy and paste that into a message to him. Because that's exactly what happened. NTA, and it truly upsets me to read these stories on Reddit. I always wonder if you are really going to spend the rest of your life with such an asshole. He has been a trashy person for a long time. She just made her peace with it back when it apparently didn't affect her. She did say his attitude changed when he lost his father, but I don't know if that description encompasses his entire personality and IQ. She's evidently NTA, but her child will have an asshole for a dad and role model. NTA. You didn't kick him out. The nurse did because she was concerned for your health and the health of your baby. He chose to leave the hospital. He chose to boycott the hospital. He chose to be an in the delivery room by not being there for you and for FaceTiming with his mom, who started to make everything about her. Who does that? Yes, it's boring watching your wife suffer through labor pains, but the answer isn't to act like a 2-year-old and play with your phone. If it was boring for him, can't he guess what it was like for you? You were bored, in pain, and concerned about your baby. He has regrets because he messed up. Now he's trying to blame you. I'm sure that you have some regrets now too, like why are you with this jerk? And he chose not to come back in and meet his newborn daughter when she came into the world because he was bitter about the consequences of his actions.